In this chapter, we'll be looking at political parties in Texas. Chapter Objectives. You should be able to describe the evolution of a political party system in the United States and in Texas, explain the history of party alignment and one-party Republican dominance in Texas, describe third-party movements in the United States and in Texas, and explain political party organization in Texas, including the caucus and primary delegate selection systems. How parties have operated in the United States. In the past, political parties played a central role in our political system, performing many different activities and functions. A political party is an organization that acts as an intermediary between the people and the government with the goal of getting its members elected to office. How parties have operated in the United States. From the 1790s to the 1970s, parties relied on members and volunteers for functions sometimes called labor-intensive politics. Parties selected candidates, controlled their campaigns, raised money, and distributed it to different candidate campaigns, organized campaign rallies, produced literature, and hired pollsters to conduct research. The parties printed the election ballots. Finally, especially after the spoils system was introduced around 1830, the parties ran the governments to which their candidates were elected. So the role of parties has changed significantly and their influence has declined. Here's why. Candidates self-select to run. They're no longer nominated. Candidates generally assemble their own campaign teams. They no longer rely on the party system. Parties still provide funding, but candidates also receive money directly from political action committees and donors and/or fund themselves. Local governments now prepare official ballots. The merit system has, for the most part, replaced the spoils system. In a shift towards more candidate-centered politics, campaigns use technology to target their voter base more efficiently, but it's costly. The importance of broadcast media began with radio. Today, micro-targeting allowed campaigns to serve up personalized messages to prospective voters. Campaigns use the internet to communicate, though a digital divide still puts many of them out of reach of these efforts. Polling data has become essential. Professional campaign consultants have, in some cases, replaced the parties when it comes to running campaigns. Parties are weaker today than any other time. Many reforms were passed during the Progressive Era, when reformers were concerned about the influence of large urban political machines. One way parties had maintained power was through a voting system that lacked privacy and anonymity. Voters could be intimidated and threatened. The Australian ballot, which was gained widespread use in the United States in the 1880s, subdued the type of abuse. Ballots were produced by the government, all ballots were identical, and each ballot listed all the candidates. Parties had also dominated the nominating process, with party bosses selecting candidates. Beginning in 1904, reformers introduced the direct primary. All members of the party vote to determine the party's nominee. The spoils or patronage system had allowed parties to consolidate the power by appointing a faithful member to the government jobs. After President James Garfield's assassination in 1881, the merit system was established with the Pendleton Act, and in the new civil service, positions were to be held regardless of the party in power. Reformers brought about several other changes. They pushed for nonpartisan local elections to remove political considerations from municipal policy. They championed the manager-council form of municipal government, with a professional city manager administering the departments and employees of the city. More recently, campaign finance laws have also lessened the influence of parties. Money still has a tremendous role in elections, no doubt. Many political scientists believe weakened parties lead to candidate-centered politics. What is candidate-centered politics? It's defined as the prospective office holders emphasizing their own talents, their own backgrounds, their characteristics, rather than their association with either major party when running for office. The political history of Texas can be viewed as a chronological parade of personalities. intertwined with their respective ideologies and political parties. When it was founded, the politics and government of the Republic of Texas were dominated by two men. Sam Houston advocated for annexation and peaceful relations with the Native American tribes, and Mirabeau Bonaparte Lamar envisioned a Texas empire and initiated hostilities against the tribes. The Republic's constitution did not allow presidents to serve consecutive terms, so elections revolved around these two personalities. Politics were dominated by leaders instead of the issues and policy differences. The party system is susceptible to changes in voting behavior and can be transformed by them. Realignment. This is a lasting shift of party loyalty and attachment in voting citizens. It is a long-lasting change, a large-scale change in a party landscape. Over the past 50 years, the political landscape in Texas has evolved from one of Democratic Party dominance to Republican Party dominance, hence an alignment. A three-party state. In 1952 and 1956 elections, many yellow dog Democrats who identify as Democrats regardless of ideology voted for a Republican candidate. Conservative Democratic Governor Allen Shavers and most statewide Democrats candidates in 1952 were nominated by both parties. They became known as the Shiver Cats, while the liberal faction of the Democrats were known as the Loyalists. These actions initiated the Texas tradition of supporting Republican presidential candidates while retaining Democratic dominance over the state offices, and they broke the tradition of straight-ticket voting. The election of Republican Bill Clements as governor in 1978 marked the real beginning of the two-party political system. Clements used his power to recruit and appoint people who would publicly declare themselves Republican. In 1982, Clements lost re-election to the Democratic Mark White, and many Democrats were elected to statewide office, including Ann Richards, Jim Hightower, Gary Morrow, and Jim Maddox. Clements returned to the office of governor in 1986. The Republican Party in Texas made significant gains in 1988 and had a big setback in the 1990s. In 1988, Clements returned to the governor's mansion and George H.W. Bush was elected president. In 1990, Clements did not seek re-election and the Republican Clayton Williams lost in the governor's race to Democratic Ann Richards. In 1992, U.S. Senator Lloyd Bentsen, a Democrat, resigned and the Texas Republicans captured their second seat in the Senate with Kay Bailey Hutchinson. In 1994, Texas finally transitioned from its brief two-party system to the one-party Republican system. George W. Bush was elected governor and the Republicans gained control of 23 of the total 27 statewide offices. After the 1998 election, the Republicans held all statewide offices, and after the 2002 elections, Republicans were also the majority in both Texas House and Senate. Today's Texas Republicans. Multiple wings with different agendas characterize the current Republican Party in Texas. Pro-business conservatives push for low taxes and limit regulation of the economy, and share the basic economic liberalism of pro-market libertarian Republicans. Social conservatives oppose abortion and gay civil rights and push for teaching alternatives to evolution in public schools. Some challenge to the party establishment and social conservatives has come from the pro-market libertarian Republicans more committed to personal liberty. Finally, some of these agendas combine in the Tea Party system. Blue Texas. No Democrat has been elected to statewide office in Texas since 1984. Wendy Davis's 2014 campaign for governor was critical for the Democratic Party, mounting efforts to flip Texas blue. The party is aided by two talented young Hispanic politicians from San Antonio, Mayor Julian Castro and his twin U.S. Congressman Joaquin Castro. Democrats could also benefit from the influx of in-migration from other states that could change the state's political future. The national political ramifications would be huge. Maybe not. Democrats have long viewed demographic realities in the state, especially increasing the size of the Hispanic population as cutting in their favor. There are a few caveats. some liberal Democrats may not be attractive to more socially conservative Hispanics. Many Hispanics in Texas are not eligible to vote. Republicans are increasing their outreach efforts, and Republicans may well be successful in maintaining Texas's general economic growth and providing opportunities for the Hispanic community. Third parties in Texas. Third party movements develop in Texas from time to time, some national, others state-based. In the 1970s, the Raza Unida party ran candidates for the state and local offices. The Libertarian Party was put forth candidates for statewide office in Texas for many years. Texas industrialist Ross Perot ran as an independent candidate for president in 1992. The Natural Law Party was on the ballot in 1996. The Green Party of Texas has been active in recent years. Third parties have not had much success in Texas. The rules governing elections make it difficult to gain access to the ballot. Campaigns are expensive, especially in terms of the necessary media access. Often minor parties hope to have their ideas picked up by major parties, such as Ross Perot, whose 1992 campaign focused on the need to balance the federal budget. Groups like the Tea Party emerge as a faction within major parties and attempt to influence their party. Challenges for the third parties. What explains the failure of third parties? A political and cultural consensus, voter identification with the two parties they grew up with, a lack of proportional representation, election by plurality rather than majority, efforts by two major parties to legally limit access to the ballot, and the perception of third-party failure. Durkheim's law. This is the electoral system strongly conditions the type of two parties that will result. Political parties in all states have both permanent and temporary organizations. These are shaped by federal and state laws and by rules established by the national party organizations. Texas Election Code determines many aspects of party activity, especially the conduct of primary elections. Each county in Texas is divided into election precincts. Statewide, there are just over 5,700 election precincts. When voters register, they are assigned to a precinct-based polling place near their home. Concluding thoughts. The U.S. political parties are not nearly as strong today as they once were in the past, but they still play a pivotal role in politics. The political history of Texas has been marked by a period of Democratic dominance and a more recent period of Republican Party dominance. Today, both parties have permanent headquarters and professional staffs actively engaged in organizing the party and supporting candidates during the election.